All right, it's just officially 12 o'clock, so I can say good afternoon. So very, very warm welcome to those people who are here already. I'd like to invite you all to open up your chat function, please. So hit the chat button, and then won't you just make sure that where there's a little drop down on the chat, just make sure that it says to everyone, because I want the whole room to be able to read what it is that you're saying on the chat, not just to me, which is a host or a panelist. So change your setting so that it says to everyone. And that way you're chatting to the whole room of entrepreneurs, not just to me. I really want to make sure that everybody is able to see what it is you have to say if you're saying it via the chat. As people are coming into the room, we're just going to give it a few more minutes. I'm just making sure that mics are enabled, so we will be able to have everybody speaking if they want to. But when other people are speaking, won't you just make sure that your mics stay muted? That's just the easiest way to make sure that there's not too much interference and we can hear what the person who is speaking is saying. So just a reminder, those people who have joined us, please open up your chat, and I'd like you to just change your chat function to say to everyone on the little drop down, as opposed to just the host or the panelist, so that you are able to chat in amongst yourselves the whole way through today's little get together. It's just gone 2 minutes past, and as I say, as people are coming in, I'm just giving permissions so that microphones can be enabled. Please just make sure it stays on mute just while other people are talking, and then as soon as you feel or you will be talking, then obviously unmute yourself. Um, all right. So I think we should probably start as soon as possible. I know it's the Friday after what probably feels like a long week for most of you. I'm here in Cape Town, and we actually have sun today. So I'm extremely delighted because I feel like we haven't seen much of the sun for at least 4 months. So feeling nice and warm and happy. Um, I would love to know, just in the chat, won't you just let me know where you are in the world? Just pop a little message on the chat so that everyone can see how big the proverbial classroom is today. And it's always nice to know just where everybody is sitting. Um, Excellent, excellent. Everybody, just make sure your chat is going out to everyone, that you are talking to everybody. And I'm super glad to see that we already are representing Eastern Cape, Gauteng, KZN. Fantastic. All right. So as people are coming in, just make sure your microphones are muted, and I will just make sure that everybody um, who is in the room. Sorry, I'm just seeing some settings pop up here, which I haven't seen before. Great. All right. If you haven't yet popped where it is in the world that it is you are sitting, won't you do that in the chat, making sure that you're chatting to everybody? And then it's just my job to just welcome you all and to just do a little bit of a check-in to see how everybody is feeling. So I'm going to just share my screen if I can find it. There we go. Okay, so I've got a little something there for us to look at. And if you could do that for me, let's just check in. Can you think of 3 words to describe your week and pop them into the chat for me? I'd love to know how your week is going. Let me just get my chat back open. 3 words to describe your week. Pop that into the chat. And it is important that everybody does this. I want to make sure that everybody is giving me a sense of their week. Oh, Palesa, sorry, woman knocked down. Palesa, have you got a cold, or is it work related that you are knocked down? And then we've got a few more people coming in. Let me just make sure that they are all got mics enabled. And those people who are just arriving, we're just doing a quick check-in. I would love for you to pop a message in the chat with 3 words that best describe your week. And I see that we've got a whole nice mix of emotions coming through here. A lot of them are quite difficult and quite challenging. So lots of people saying hectic, tiresome, surviving. Okay, and then the positives, productive, insightful, focused. Um, I think what's really nice about going through an exercise like this, I want you to have a look at what the others are saying. And I think you can start to identify with everybody. I mean, the thing is, in a week, we probably have a range of emotions and a range of experiences, which means it's quite challenging to sum up a week in 3 words. But it's a good exercise to have a look and see that, as an entrepreneur, as a person who is working tirelessly to make something happen for yourself, there are other people out there who are sharing and feeling and experiencing similar emotions. And it's weird, whereas humans, we need to know that we're not alone. And it's important that, well, part of being or feeling like we're not alone is to know that others are feeling and experiencing similar emotions and things to us. Um, and then those people that have differing experiences, it's also really, really good to learn about those different experiences and see how we can perhaps, learn from one another as we proceed. So here's another question for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how challenging have you found the last, I think it's now on your 11th week, 11 weeks of startup school? How challenging? 1 being so easy, cruised it, no worries, absolutely a walk in the park. 10 being crazy challenging. Our mind is overflowing, super stressed. Okay, okay. Give me a rating. Give me a rating. And it's just off the bat, how do you feel? Okay. All right. Again. Nice mix. Most people sitting in the really felt challenged mode or close there to that, and I'm very grateful and very happy to see that, because if it's not challenging, you're not growing. If it's not difficult, you're not expanding. So I'm very glad that you are finding it challenging. It's really exciting that you are getting towards the end of your work with us in terms of the content delivered and your coached activities. And I know that you're eagerly getting towards the chance to pitch for the prize funding. I also just wanted to drop in here to let you know that there is some exciting opportunities beyond the prize funding. When you are a startup school alumni, you will be in a network of interesting people, of well over 2,500 entrepreneurs to date, and one that is connected to Investec Bank, one that is connected to various suppliers and big businesses and different kinds of funders and stakeholders. And it really is a rich network and one that is worth being involved in. So those of you who are needing a bit of motivation for the last few activities, do this thing, get it done. I know that it's hugely beneficial regardless of the outcome. You will have something to show for it, and you will benefit from it, if not immediately, definitely well into the future. Okay, today's session, I'm going to say a few things at the beginning, a little bit of a tiny bit of a talk, and then I want to get into discussions about that uh, with your own strategic planning as it relates to the course. Can you just confirm with me, everybody, that you can see the screen that I've shared with you that says "Let's check in"? Just give me a thumbs up or a yes. Got it. Okay, great. Okay, so today's session is a little bit of a wrap up and a summary of where you currently are at with the program, and it's around strategy and planning. So In the wise words of Dumbledore from Harry Potter, it's not always our abilities that show what we indeed are, it's our choices. And it turns out that Dumbledore was a bit right about a few things, but particularly he was right about a thing called strategy. Let's get this screen to move on. Come on, screen. So, what exactly is strategy? So, strategy, is it the individual tactics or methods, or is it a long-term roadmap? Have a vote. Those of you in the chat, do you think strategy is individual tactics or methods, or is it a longer-term roadmap? Okay, good. I see lots of people are somebody saying good or both good, longer term thing. Fantastic. So I think quite often Hollywood has given us a bad definition of what a strategy is. Quite often in those kind of action movies, a strategy is described, or what is your strategy? And it's very often just a tactic or a method. We're going to do this thing. And in the sort of context of war, it's often talked about in terms of individual strategic moves. But what's more important when it comes to business and creating a business plan is understanding that there are different ways to get to the goal that you wish to achieve. So these are the kinds of questions that we can ask ourselves when it comes to strategic planning. What markets are we going to get into? What lines are we going to focus on? Are we going to narrow our focus? How can we be better than that guy? How can we be better than international competition? What are our products? How are we going to price? There's a number of these things that need to be considered. My keyboard is definitely not listening to me today. Come on, go to the next one. So they talk about the different levels of strategy, and they've been theorized in a number of ways. So you are probably really focusing currently on the business level strategy, but you also can have a competitive strategy and an operational strategy. And as a business grows, it becomes more and more important that you understand that the strategic planning or the strategy around your business does need to be viewed in three different levels, particularly when you start expanding your operation. So when you're offering multiple products, when you're serving a significantly big client base, you will need to start compartmentalizing your strategy into the business, the competitive, and the operational. So although strategy is quite a seriously important part of business teaching, and I'll tell you, it's probably, if you go and do an MBA, it's probably one of the most central themes that you will hear or work with. It's a word that kind of you'll hear every day in your studies. But there's a really interesting research shows that 95% of a typical workforce don't actually know what their organization strategy is. And that's super interesting. 90% of organizations fail to execute on their strategy successfully. So what they say they're going to do and how they say they're going to do it, 90% of them don't actually execute on it. 86% of executive teams, so that the leaders of an operation or of a business, spend less than 1 hour per month discussing strategy. And 60% of organizations don't link their strategy to budgeting. Now, this is a massive test. Now, Erica Olson is this is like serious research. And if you will look at those numbers again, does that paint a pretty picture of for a business? Pop it in the chat. Do you think this is a good or a bad thing? But why do you think it's happening? And now I want to ask people to raise their hands, and we can ask people to add their voices to this. Has somebody got some idea of why is it that strategy, although it's so important, is so often neglected by people, by entrepreneurs, by leaders? So if you could raise your hand, I see Ntika, I don't know if you want to add your voice here or if you had your hand up before, but anybody who would like to hazard a guess or offer an opinion on what's going on here, why are these stats so dismal? Uh, Hello, go for it. You can unmute yourself and give us your thoughts. Hello.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Beautifully, yeah. Give us your thoughts.
Okay. I think that these stats are as they are, sorry, because what I've found is that it's easy to sit down and just like plan like, oh, this is how we're gonna do this thing. But once you're actually doing it and once you have other people involved, it kind of goes at the back of the car, it kind of takes a back seat a little bit. And maybe these numbers look like they do because maybe the company's executives, they're focusing on all the other things that kind of made the strategy to just fall behind, I
Absolutely.
think.
Yeah, great insight. Thank you. Thank you so much. Nolovo, won't you unmute yourself and give us your thoughts?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi,
Um,
Nolovo.
I think, in my opinion, the strategy is not given enough attention that it deserves, because you'll find that organization go to the strategic session, plan everything, and we have the end result. But then when you get back to the office, it is not followed. We just work other ways. There's no coordination. I think that's how it happens.
I think that's a great point. I think a lot of the time it has to do with how it's communicated to the broader company, and how do you bring people into the strategy so they feel like it's theirs and that they can move forward with it. Thanks. That's fantastic input. Loratu, give us your thoughts.
Hi. I think it becomes a challenge to follow strategy because it's easier to jot down business ideas and strategies on paper. However, it's very different when you have to practice it. So I think most of the time I find that what they've strategized on and put on paper is very different in comparison to what is out there in the real world of doing business. So I think that's the main reason why organizations are failing to follow their own strategies.
Lorata, I want to ask you a follow-up question. How do you think a leadership team can mitigate against that? Can do it differently?
Look, I think if you bring your people on board all the time, I think in most cases, companies operate in silos. Leadership operates in silos. They've got their own plan, which they fail to communicate to the rest of the organization or the rest of the team. So
Yeah.
I think we might all have a common goal, but how we get there is very different. So it's not communicated in the most basic way possible. So leadership, I think, fails there to properly articulate to the rest of the team how to get to the end goal.
Great. That's fantastic. Thanks, Lorata. I really appreciate your input. Nompumelelo?
Hi guys. So
Hi, we
I
can hear you.
think the biggest thing is that the biggest reason why organizations fail to implement their strategies is because most of the time the strategies are done at the very beginning of the business, and then it makes it almost look like it's just there to make the business look good on paper, and then
Mm,
it's done, which goes back to the culture of the business as well. Like most businesses, their culture on paper is amazing until you're physically there. I personally have a strategy for my business and I do implement it, but the biggest problem I have is I do not link it to the budget because I'm an ideas person. I always want to do this and I do it, except I always go over budget because I never link any of my ideas to the budget.
How do you think you could get better at working strategy alongside budget?
I think I need to hire a finance person to assist me with that. So that as I keep coming up with my ideas, I need somebody to keep reminding me, okay, babes, but we can't afford this. We can only do this much.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I really love your input here, and one of the things I'd like to say around that idea of painting this great picture at the start is the way to make. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we must paint the ideal, but in order for a strategy to really work, is that it needs to consistently, continuously live. So it has to evolve. So after you've in business for a while, you start learning and accumulating knowledge, and the real world hits you in some things, and things change, and the world changes, markets change. That strategy has to stay alive. So it needs to look different at different times. And I think what often happens is businesses early stage paint this beautiful picture, and then they put that file away and they carry on. And they don't pull that thing out and go, this is not a perfect document. This is a living document. This strategy has to change every time it needs to change. So, and then obviously all linked to communication and all that kind of jazz. Cool. Thank you so much. Sinenkosi, are you wanting to say something? I see your mute is unmiked. Sinenkosi? Sinenkosi, you want to add your voice? Okay. Ntika, time to unmute and for you to add your voice to this.
Yes, thanks. Good day, everybody. I think the one problem with many companies not following their strategy, I agree with the previous speakers. But one thing is, you find that the strategy document is too long. It has got very objectives and targets that are in most cases on paper. They are beautiful, but in reality they are not. But the biggest problem is that when the strategy is drafted, it is not linked with the budget from the very start. Even if the executives and the board can go to a strategic session, they should be able to say, for this financial year, we want to do maybe 6 things. And then on those 6 things, and then they must then budget it and allocate budget and say, to do these 6 things, you must do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then on quarterly basis, then you will be able to say, how far are you? How much did you spend? Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Love that. Okay, so we established quite a few things in this last short discussion around how we could potentially avoid, or the way we see some of the problems with communication. I mean, sorry, not with communication, with strategic plan, and why strategy is often neglected. So let's go back to the kind of the start of strategic planning and the process. And there's a couple of models, and you would have seen these in your or these methodologies. You would have seen these in your notes, the ways of approaching a strategic plan or a business plan. And the first one is very simply, what's the situation? Where do we want to go? How are we going to get there? Number 2, how do we paint the picture? How do we see that picture? How do we get to the complication of what it really is? And then how do we plan for it? And then the more kind of complicated one, a more business-oriented one, what's the vision? What's our SWOT analysis? What are our strengths, weaknesses? What are the opportunities? Then we formulate a plan, we implement, and then we try and control the plan. Now, all of these things seem like they are linear, as in you start here and you end there. But as we were discussing in this last little session, in the last few minutes, was there's a significant risk in viewing strategy as being purely linear. We have to be able to come back. All right, this is a little bit more detail on these plannings. There are further methodologies of analysis, which you probably all already know. How do you do a SWOT analysis? You've had to do this for yourselves. You've got the Porter's 5 models. You can just go and check these things out. Google them. They are freely available. They're just ways of doing analysis when you getting into your planning. I don't want to dwell too much on that. So, as we said in the discussion, unfortunately, there are more books and resources available on the definition of strategy and less on how to actually get the results. Again, going back to what we said, we're very quick. We can paint the picture. We can write the document, but how do we actually get onto it? And this is where I want to start hammering home a little bit on the actual business plan, because the business plan is only as good as it can be executed. I'm going to say that again. The business plan is only as good as it can be executed. All right. And I think a lot of the time we often get very idealistic and very we elevate our thoughts and what it is we're going to do. And then when we relook at it and we think of it in terms of execution, we actually get a bit scared and a bit nervous. And then we don't quite commit and we don't quite do the things that we need to do. And this is very often where entrepreneurship falls down. It's the stumbling block, the execution stage. So as you know, the business plan is by far the most important thing in forming your business strategy. It's the guiding document, it's the guiding principles, it's the guiding thought behind it. And you need to consider a number of things. And you've gone through this with your notes, so we don't need to go into too many details. I just want to cover it quickly here for the discussion. We need to think about our values. What is it that sets us apart? How do we think? What is our philosophy? How do we define what the purpose of our operation is? What are we trying to do? Who is our market? What's our promise? What the brand promise is I always say to people, what would you be prepared to give somebody's money back for if you didn't deliver on that? You've made a promise. If you don't do that, you must be able to give the money back to that person because you didn't do what you said you would do. So what's that promise? What's your value proposition, and what are your rhythms? How are you going to actually go through this? Now, there are two major things that we work with at Startup School, as you've probably already known, and these are very freely available resources. They are templates that you can use for your business plan, for your strategic planning. Gazelle's one-page strategic plan is the one I like to use, but Strategizer's business model canvas is also excellent and quite often a stronger resource for those people working particularly in the service industries. All right. In the discussion we just had, we did kind of touch on this, and this is the word dynamic. A business plan is characterized by constant change, activity, or progress, and therefore it is by its nature a dynamic document. Never ever think that it is a complete document. It can never be. Unless you've finished the business, you've closed the doors, and you've done with it, then that document is finished. Until that happens, that document has to be characterized by constant change, by activity and progress. And what I mean by activity is engagement with the thinking. That's engagement not just from you as the entrepreneur, as the heart of the business, but with your team, no matter its size. If you're just a one-man band, you still need to set the time aside for you to work on your strategy. If you are 200, 300, 100, 1,000 people, there needs to be constant activity around your plan. And you need to be working towards its evolution. Right. Now I want to ask you a question, and it's going to be into the chat. How comfortable are you that your business plan, as it stands now, I know it's in various stages of completion or not, how comfortable are you with being able to go back and change what you've done? So one, you are absolutely desperately uncomfortable. You are very difficult to go. It's very difficult for you to look back at what you've done and cross something out and change it or evolve something. 10 being you are ready to change like this. Give me a score. 1, very challenging for you to go back and change. 10, super easy for you to go back and change. All right. All right. Good, good. Seeing lots of very high numbers. Lots of very high numbers. Okay. Well, I'm very glad that you are, and many of you are very, very comfortable to jump back and change. I'm now going to throw a little bit of a spanner in the works. So I said your stuff needs to be dynamic. It needs to be able to be changed. You need to be comfortable with change. But a lot, let me just try and phrase this in a helpful way. Entrepreneurs are generally excited by change. They love new. They love the fresh, the shiny, the exciting. And exciting is often linked to change. But if you're too quick to go back and change things, you may not necessarily see what you've got there actually succeed. So there needs to be a little bit of caution with this word dynamic, and a little bit of caution with the willingness to go and change. So what I'm going to challenge you to think about is there needs to be very careful thinking and strategic thinking when a change is made. Okay, let me say that again. There needs to be a very careful bit of thinking before a change is made. Now, that goes back to and I said, there's an idea of a linear, when we look at the planning or strategic planning, we looked at those different methodologies, we just gave you 3, that it's linear. Because you start with the early stage and you end up with a plan. What I'm encouraging you to do now is when you think there's something that might need changing because there's an obstacle, because there's a market shift, because there's a budget constraint, revisit the methodologies of planning to test for the change that you were thinking of making. Okay, so I don't want anybody who jumped in and said, oh, 10 to feel in any way ashamed, but I do want to caution you. It really is important that you don't change for the sake of change. Don't change for the sake of fresh or exciting, for something that feels like it's motivating. You need to now start looking at that plan very critically and see if there are some parts that you may just need to stick with. You may just need to see and test and go through some of the hardships with to really know whether you should change or not. So I am quite pleased with those of you who stuck yourselves somewhere in the middle, and I'm very glad to see that there was very few people who were completely uncomfortable with change. It's very unusual for an entrepreneur to be uncomfortable with change. They generally thrive on change, and it's what makes entrepreneurs successful and really, really, really good at what they do. Okay, now I would like to open up the floor to ask for, I want to ask a question that you can consider for me. Where do you think the greatest challenge for you right now in terms of your business plan is? What area of the plan or planning do you think is the greatest challenge right now? Loratu, you were the first to raise your hand. Over to you.
Yeah, this is very sensitive for me. So financial predictions. I mean, the finance section is very, very challenging, very sensitive. It's one of those, I can't get it right and perfect as yet, you know what I mean? And it gave me headaches. I do not want to lie. It gave me headaches. So yeah, to be quite honest, that's the one section that is really, really, really troubling for me.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of, I mean, I'm not going to be able to ease your the sensitivity to this, but there's a few things I'd like to say. The first is, and if there's a chartered accountant in the room, he's probably going to, or she's going to want to shoot me, but predictions are never perfect. You use the best information you have available to you to make the best predictions possible, but they are never perfect. So there's always a risk. There's always a gamble. And there's something that you need to kind of become comfortable with. Then the other thing is, we are, and I don't know whether this is just a South African thing, but I can only speak because as a South African. finance, numbers and finance have kind of got a bit of an aura around them, or an energy of like very fear-based, and I think we grew up with that. I think even across cultures, across educational experiences, money and finances were always kind of put in a very you needed to be extremely careful and really, it's like and I think also, given some of the horrible stuff that has happened in terms of corruption and whatever, the way people are able to abuse the financial sort of things, we all have a bit of I want to say a phobia around it. And I think what I'd like to encourage you as an entrepreneur, Lerato, is to try and find a way of approaching it that is less fears-based, less fear-based, and a little bit more confidence. You are an entrepreneur. No matter what you say or what anybody else thinks, I'm telling you now, you are an entrepreneur. To get to where you are at this stage in the program, at this stage in your career growth, at this stage in your business, you are an entrepreneur. And you have a better understanding of your business than anybody else does. So therefore, you are in the powerful position of attributing numbers to what it is you're doing. So I would like to just encourage you to have a lot more confidence in approaching it. I think the other thing is, yes, it's a problem to make mistakes, but you're going to make mistakes. We know this.
Yeah.
And if you go look at any famous entrepreneur on the African continent, globally, they have made significant mistakes. And obviously, it's not comfortable making mistakes. We don't want to make them. We need to do everything in our power to mitigate mistakes, but you're going to make them. And so become more comfortable with that, and approach your financial planning and your projections, etc., with a little bit more security in the value you have as an entrepreneur. Get the confidence, because you deserve and you should have the confidence. I think also the other thing is to try and find a way that it actually motivates and inspires you. So the exciting thing with things like projections is modeling, where you can model what the possibilities are, and you can start seeing it in actual numbers, how good your business could be should the certain things go in a certain way. And that actually is really, really exciting. And I think to try and find the joy in playing around with those kinds of projections helps to limit some of the fear. Now, Lerato, there was more a philosophical, psychological assistance than a technical assistance, but I hope that I have helped just a tiny bit in just saying, be brave and do it.
Yeah, I guess in terms of easing off the pressure, yes. So yeah, look, I'll take your advice. However, it's not when having to put it into practice, it's still quite stressful, because I think, again, with the activity, it was from the fact that I think the activity it said that it's going to get investors. So I was panicking, like I was literally panicking. And I was so nervous when it came to that section. So nothing I ever did. I don't think I was confident with anything, basically, that I was
no, I think it's
finance.
I think you're not alone at all, right? I think it happens a lot. And also the only way to learn is to do it, Otherwise and I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people with brilliant ideas and brilliant plans who get to this stage and actually talk themselves out of doing it.
Yeah.
So this is a big hurdle. This is the hurdle, one of the significant barriers to success. So it's hard. It's not just hard for you. It's hard for many people, and it's hard for a reason, because it is challenging. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lerato.
Thanks so much, Aaron.
Kahelo, go for it.
Okay, so I absolutely agree with Lerato. The budgeting is very it's difficult, but what I wanted to say was, and this is something I didn't realize until we did the pitching practice last week,
Yes.
I was practicing, and I had my mom and my sister, and I was practicing my pitch to them, and I realized that they didn't understand what it is that I was trying to sell them. So I think the problem with me is the part that I'd want to change on my business plan is actually putting down on paper what I want people to see. So what's in my head, how do I put it on paper to make people see that this is what I want to sell you, this is what I want to give you, this is what I'm offering you.
I absolutely love what you've just said. And I want everybody to hear this. So often we become so technical in our planning, and we write this thing largely for ourselves, that we lose the the actual essence of what it is you do. Simply, what is your business going to do? And it's so good, Kahelo, that you did the exercise of putting it to somebody who is not in the business, who's totally outside, and they said to you, but I don't know what you're actually doing. And that hurts and it's challenging, and you go, oh man, but it's a great exercise. And it's something I see so often with investor pitches. We sit there with great businesses. I know these entrepreneurs. I know their business is a beautiful business that's already successful. And then I listen to them talk to the investor, and the investor, I can just see the investor just getting more and more confused. Like, I don't know what this person is. I just don't get it. And I'm going, you're not relaying the essence of what it is you're doing. You're not being clear on what it is you're saying. And I think that's a great lesson for everybody in this room. What you've put down, what are the blanks that are if somebody else were to hear that or read that you need to fill in, because they're in your brain or they're in your heart. And I think you need to think very carefully, particularly for the competition, or when you ever go to pitch for funding, or if you're going to go try and find a strategic partner, that you have clarified so much of what is unsaid in your documentation. So well done, Kahelo, and I know that your pitch will be stronger because of this process. Cool, thank you. Nompumelelo, your turn.
Yes. So with regards to what Kauhelo said, I have the opposite reaction. So with my pitch, I noticed that I can put the idea down very clearly to like a customer level. I
Yes.
have a fear that I don't know how to pitch it in a slightly more technical person. If I were to, like, I'm not technical enough for a person who slightly needs some technical aspect to it. Because I noticed in my pitch, I hardly even mentioned the financial aspects of it. It was like I pitched it like I was just talking to just a random client that I needed to buy
You are making it
instead
more a
of an
sales pitch
investor.
for your product, which you need to weave into it. But what you need to do, and I don't, Nompumelelo, don't sell yourself short. You do have the technical knowledge. This is your business. You know it. You know it. You know it. You know it. Now, what I want you to think about is, imagine that you could split yourself, like clone yourself, and one of yourself has never heard what your business is about, and now speak to that person. So as if you're speaking to yourself, explaining what this thing needs to, what this is about, what you're going to do. That exercise may help you to start to layer go one step removed from pitching to a client or a customer or a paying person, so that you can talk technically about what your business is going to do. It's really important to think about your audience with your, okay, so now we're getting in a little bit into pitching and less about the actual planning, but a business plan is a dynamic document. We spoke about that. And it's going to be used in different instances. It's going to be used for you. The main purpose is that it's your guiding document that you will live and breathe by, and you will work on. But when you take it outside of that room to somebody else, you need to reread that document and that thing with the audience in mind. So if you're pitching to an investor, who is that investor and why would they be listening to you? Your intention for them listening to you is that you hopefully will get some kind of input into your business to enable it to do what you need it to do. But what's in it for them? What do they need to know in order for you to give, or for them to give you that support? And yes, it's often just we want to summarize and say it's the return on investment. What are they going to make by investing money into you? But you need to think very carefully about the intricacies of that. Why would they want to? How are they going to? In what way will they think about this? And then you need to adapt your thinking accordingly. But Nompumelelo, I think don't sell yourself short. I know you're probably in the business mindset where you're selling. You need to try and extract yourself and go one layer further. Think about if you were trying to explain what it is you're doing to somebody like yourself who didn't know anything about the business, and then give that a go. I hope that was sort of helpful. It's a little bit what you call it, esoteric, but it's definitely a worthwhile exercise. Okay, guys. Is there anybody else who wants to let us know what their challenge currently is, where they're facing a bit of a hurdle or a stuck with the business plan? Kahelo, I see your hands up. I don't know, is it still up, or do you want to say something more?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I must have pressed that by mistake. So sorry.
No worries at all. Lerato, go for it.
Hi, Jared. Another problem I'm facing. Look, there's my business got two aspects to it. There's the product production as well as the service side of it, right? The service side of the business is quite clear, and it's something that I've already started, right? However, with the product side, the manufacturing side, production side, I'm still yet to get into that. Now, my challenge was, do I combine the two? Because essentially it's one business. However, it's one aspect of generating income is different from the other. So my challenge was, do I combine the two, or do I present it as two separate businesses because one operates independently of the other?
Okay, so there's a few questions I have for you. So you say they operate independently of others. So if I can buy the service and I don't need the product, or I can buy the product and
yes, okay. Yeah, so you can buy the service. The service is which is maintenance, installation, and decommissioning, right? That's a service on its own, right?
Yes.
Which it would apply to people that already have that product, right?
Yeah.
And then to new customers that want a product, there's options of the product as well as installation of that product.
Okay.
Right.
So what
So
is already clear to me is that there's actually two different. These are two different markets.
correct. While same, yeah, slightly different.
Okay.
Look, you get customers that are already having that product, right? Already existing customers that already have that product, so they would need the service of that product. They need maintenance of that product. They need installation with the product, and they need you to provide the service side of it. And then there's customers that need the product. Now, the business that I haven't gotten into as yet is the providing of the product or making of the product. Right.
Are you looking to make the product? You're not looking
Correct.
to on sell. Okay.
I'm looking to make the product and to the service side, but currently I am still on the serve. I've just started with the service side. So my confusion when it comes to the business plan is, do I combine the two, or do I present it separately because they can operate independently of each other, you know?
Yes. Challenging question, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to give you a very strong answer here, but my gut response to it is that you do need to delineate the two clearly in your plan so that you are able to measure them independently.
Okay.
Because as somebody who potentially is going to invest in that, I want to know whether it's really valuable doing both, or should you not be putting more resources into one or the other. Do your competitors do one or the other better than the other? So perhaps one, because you have you said, you're already in the one, the model, and you can do the projections very confidently. Perhaps this other one is something that you're going to look at a minimum viable product kind of approach. You do still put it in the business plan, but it's part of the longer term strategy. And your projections are such that it could be a valuable addition to the business. But I would want to be able to, as a potential investor, know that you're going to measure the two with the idea that if you needed to cut one line, the other side of the business would still be profitable.
Okay.
Does that help at all?
No, it does help. Because my question was, do I combine it or do I leave it separate? Do I present the business separately, basically? So you've answered me quite well. So it's separate. So yeah, it's
okay,
clear.
Great. Okay,
Thanks.
cool. Pelissa, I think that you've had your hand up for a little while. Go for it. Pelissa, you just need to unmute yourself. Pelissa, are you able to unmute yourself, because then we can hear you? Okay, it seems that Pelissa might be struggling a little bit there. Pelissa, maybe there's a bit of a technical bug there. Maybe if you can pop it in the chat, that'd be great. Is there anybody else who wants to add their voice? All right, we are sort of 5 minutes away from 1 o'clock. All right, Pelissa says issues estimating the market size. Pelissa, this is many of us struggle with this kind of a technicality. But what I would like to encourage you to do is to do some basic desktop research, and then also see if you are able to access some of the research into whatever the business that you're in does, and start to access some of the data that may be available around kind of population size, those sorts of things. Don't think that you can't find this information. There is a wealth of information out there. You just need to make sure that you hunt and scratch below the surface as much as possible. And perhaps the other thing to do is look at a similar kind of business to yours, and one that's been running for a while, and maybe just get in touch with them and just see if they're able to point you in a little bit of a direction in terms of understanding that market. Okay, guys, I really want to thank you so much for making the time to come have a short conversation this afternoon. It was really lovely to hear some of your voices. I know there were lots of other people in the room who didn't add their voices. I hope that you were able to feel that there was some value, that you are feeling a little bit like you have some comrades in this game of entrepreneurship, and that you are in some ways motivated to move into the next stages, whatever that stage may be for you on your entrepreneurial journey. Intika, I see you got your hand up. Go for it.
Yes. I think is it Natalie? Natalie sent an question that I also had regarding the business plan, as to whether we will have the opportunity to resubmit after rehashing it. But I also just want to check with regard to the pitching. Sorry. Do we have an idea as to the price and how you can help? Because for instance, I do toilet papers, and yesterday ShopRite have just increased my orders.
Fantastic.
And they are going to do that in the next 5 days as well. Now, I just want to check in terms of helping us in accessing finance, and maybe just explain the pitching as to how it is going to work.
Okay. Cool. Thanks for the question. So the first thing I want to say is, and it's going to sound harsh, but do not put all your eggs into this basket. This competition, as exciting as it is and as much of an opportunity as it is, should not be seen as the only option for you. What you have created and what you have done in terms of your work to date can be taken out there. Go. There are way, way more opportunities out there when you open your eyes to go and see. There are other investors. There are other people who are wanting to help. There are supplier development programs. There's a wealth of stuff, and we'll try and point you in some of those directions. But I think the message I mainly want to say is your world of entrepreneurship and your success does not depend on one small competition pitch. That's the first thing I want to say. The next thing I want to say is this is a golden opportunity for you to refine and test what it is you're doing in a safe way that allows you to put something together with some feedback from a coach and potentially move into the final rounds of a competition to be put in front of stakeholders. The way it's going to work is you should have got information, or you'll be getting information in terms of the competition. You'll prepare a number of documents which will be submitted to us, and we will take a few weeks. We send it actually to independent people who shortlist. They select a shortlist of 10, 15 individuals from the applications. And then that shortlist goes into a final round judging, which is a pitch day. This is done virtually, so you do not need to be anywhere in particular. You just need to have a secure internet connection, and you will pitch to a board of judges. There are 3 judges on their panel. One of them is from Investec, one of them is from Mr. Price, and one of them is an independent judge. They then will make a decision on whether dispensing the grant fund of up to 100,000. So it's exciting, and I want you to get excited about it, and I want you to apply for it. You're only going to be competing against your own group of people, but there can only be one winner, and that's sad for me, because there are many, many, many of you who deserve and should be getting that much more, or getting something. But what I want to encourage you to go look for that something. It is there for you, I promise you. And if you look at what's going on from the economy perspective, from what the current kind of talking in the entrepreneurial circles is, yes, we had a diminishing of employment in the last quarter in terms of stats, but all the indicators are saying that things are on the up. Investors are on the look. There is opportunity now as an entrepreneur to go and grab those opportunities. So I want to encourage you to really look beyond just this current thing that you're involved in. So Ntika, to answer your question, that information will all be with you in terms of the application. You'll be preparing the documents, which are very similar documents to what you've prepared already in the program. You just have to refine them slightly. That pack will be submitted by a couple of weeks after the program officially ends, and that goes off to an independent judge, whittles it down to a shortlist. That shortlist then goes on to another round, which is a pitching round in front of a panel of judges, and then a decision is made. And after that, the announcement is made at a closing ceremony, which is also done virtually. I hope that answers your question. Okay, Natalie, in terms of resubmitting your business plan, please rework on it, particularly now that, because in terms of the competition, the next stage is submitting your business plan will be part of that competition pack. So you definitely can rework it given the new information you may have or some of the ideas that you created. The point of this kind of program is that you do make these realizations, and you should suddenly wake up in the middle of the night, go, oh, I need to change that. Oh, I've got this great idea. This is the point. This is what learning is about. So I do hope that you are all feeling like you've got to go and adapt it and play with it and do things differently. All right, we have run out of time. Nompumelelo, if it's a burning question, please send me an email. I will give you my email address here, and we can set up a time. But otherwise, I really want to thank you all for taking the time to join me today. I enjoyed speaking with you. I enjoyed hearing some of your voices. I encourage you, want to give you words of encouragement for the balance of the program. Keep going, complete it, become a Startup School alumni, and go out there and show the rest of the world that South Africa makes the best entrepreneurs that there are. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and go well.